Hello and welcome to a new video. Today I would like to talk about the beauty of menstruality. And the reason why I would like to do that is because I would like to contribute with shifting the narrative of menstruation and menstruality. Menstruality being the experience of having a menstrual cycle. Shift that from being a liability as something that is dirty, something that is shamed, something that is to be hidden, not talked about, and kind of shift the perspective a little bit and shed a light on the beauty that it actually is, the magnificence the menstrual cycle represents, which is ultimately our ability to create life, bear life, bring life forth, birth life. And there is a profound beauty, in my opinion, about that. And having a menstrual cycle is a testimony to our ability, our body's ability to do exactly that. And as a woman and being who menstruates, we are in our reproductive years, we are somewhere in our cycle every day. So we are a part of this very natural process every single day. And I think it's important for us to reclaim the beauty and the wonder and the potential and the power that reside in having and being a part of a cycle, and also for us to use this cycle as a daily anchoring into our bodies. And if we have a notion that menstruality and menstruation is dirty and a liability and something that is something that is a burden, or that it doesn't matter what word I use, that it's just this negative connotation to it, that will affect our everyday of our life in our very many years that we are fertile. So yeah, shedding a lens on the beauty and on the how valuable it is and how magnificent it is to have a cycle, to be part of a cycle. That is what I would like to talk about today. And I'm also actually going to talk a little bit about the menstrual blood, what it actually is, because I did not know that up until recently. I had not given much thought to what I am actually shedding. And when I found out what it is that I am actually shedding each cycle, that changed my perspective on the bleeding part and also the whole cycle. So yeah, I would like to share that as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share two sources today that have inspired me recently, and perhaps they will do the same for you, to look at, shift the lens a little bit about on the process and um, the process of having a cycle and the beauty that resides in it and within it. Yeah, so I think I'll just dive right in. Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, so that is basically my intention for this video. It's to just share some sources and also to um, go a little bit into what the menstrual blood actually is. Okay, so the first source I would like to share is from this book. It's called The Fifth Vital Sign, written by Lisa Hendrickson-Jack. And very early on, she writes something that made me like stop. And I had to read it many times because it's huge. It's like, wow. So, what she writes is every human being on earth is here because of her or his mother's menstrual blood. If women stopped menstruating, there would be no next generation. That's how important your period is. Your period is important, and without it, there would be no next generation. Without your blood, without your period, without your cycle, there would be no next generation. Imagine that, as opposed to the programming so many of us have integrated that menstruality and menstrual blood is like a waste. And so why do we have this? That is why, because we have the ability to bring forth life. And regardless if that is our personal intention, which of course we all have our individual lives and it may not be the path for everyone, but it still is this sign of vitality that we can tap into every cycle, that our body is working, because ultimately that is the intention of our body, to procreate, and the menstrual cycle is a necessity for that to happen. But regardless, it's a vital sign that our body is functioning, that this tune and this rhythm that we are a part of is intact. And yeah, in my life, many years ago, there was a time where I did not have my menstrual cycle because of health issues. And it did not feel right. It felt like I was out of tune with my rhythm. And when it returned, I cried. I cried just tears of relief and tears of just like this coming back to the rhythm that I am a part of, that my body is naturally programmed to kind of follow and ebb and flow with. So if anything, that is also a way to look at it and connect with it, that it's a sign of health and it's a sign of vitality. So the next source that I would like to show you is from a podcast that is called Conversations with My Conscience. It's Layla, her name is called, and or her name is, and her podcast is she talks to her father and sometimes her friend about the big topics of life. I find it so interesting. I've learned a lot. And actually, this is the first episode of the whole podcast, and that is released at least. And it's actually her father that goes into the importance of the menstrual cycle. And he does it not even having been asked about it. He does it as a part of an important conversation they're having, which I think is just so beautiful and so inspiring. And it comes from a man. And it just gives me so much hope, honestly. Let me share with you. So, turns out I didn't manage to show you the actual clip of the podcast, so I'm gonna try again. Let's see.
I think one of the insanity of our society is allowing women to go work the day of their cycle.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, one day before to one day after, at least.
Yeah.
But we disconnected from the body and the nature and what happens to us.
Yeah, when I usually if I tell him like it's my first day, he'll literally be like, cancel your workouts, cancel your meetings, sit at home. Just like bathe and bask in that this is your feminine glory. Let it do what it needs to do. Rest.
I wouldn't let my assistant drive. I will just sit, I'll drive. I would like,
yeah.
Anyway. Alhamdulillah.
He's very specific with that. I know, but I think this is something that modern day society, and it's done very much on purpose to disconnect us from everything spiritual and that connects us to the oneness.
The cycle, because we're really connected to there are cycles around, the cycles upon cycles, and it all goes back to nature, and all nature goes back to the creator. And we're supposed to be part of this. Amazing. Just open a watch.
Yeah.
And see all of those amazing cycles in it, rotating, just to give you the accuracy of the time. You're just one small, tiny, weeny.
And the whole mechanism, I agree.
I actually wrote down some of what he says. So he says, we disconnected from the body and the nature and what happens to us. And then she points to a very important point. And then he continues. There are cycles around us, cycles upon cycles, and it all goes back to nature. And all nature goes back to the creator. And we are supposed to be part of this. I could not agree more. It's very well articulated. Yeah. It's almost like poetry. Imagine if we and girls, when they first get their period, that this is what they are taught, that they are part of. We're supposed to be part of this, cycles upon cycles, and it all goes back to nature. We are supposed to be part of this, and all nature goes back to the creator. When we are born, this is a very natural part of being a woman. It's like a program that is instilled in us biologically. That's how we are created. We don't choose ourselves when we enter puberty. That we don't order a menstrual cycle online. It's inherent in us. It's part of who we are. It's how we are created. So I don't see how that is dirty or dangerous or something to be shameful of. So yeah, that is what I wanted to share. And also, let's also talk a little bit about the menstrual blood, what it actually is, because like I said, I did not know what I was shedding. Yes, it's blood. That is very obvious. But actually, the main component of what it is that we're shedding is the endometrial lining. And the endometrial lining is the lining that sits inside of the uterus, the uterine wall. And the endometrial lining consists of two layers. So there's a basal layer and there's a functional layer. And this functional layer regenerates itself every month. And if we don't get pregnant, this functional layer is what is shedding. So what is this layer? What is this endometrial lining? The endometrial lining is regenerates itself, and it builds and thickens from the very beginning of your cycle. So as estrogen starts to rise in the beginning of the cycle, the immediate impact, there's an immediate impact on the endometrial lining. So this estrogen results in one of the things it does is that the endometrial lining starts to thicken and become more vascularized. So there are more blood vessels, more blood flow in the endometrial lining. And the endometrial lining's purpose, its job, is to sustain the beginning of a potential pregnancy. So if at around ovulation or after ovulation, the egg cell and a sperm cell meet and fertilize and develop into an embryo, this embryo will have to have somewhere to go, and that is the endometrial lining's job, that the embryo will attach, and when it attaches, it gets all its essential nutrients that it needs to survive and to grow and to develop into a fetus, and that is the job of the endometrial lining. It transfers all these nutrients to the embryo and makes sure that it stays alive up until the placenta. The placenta comes in and they work in tandem to hold space for the embryo and the fetus to grow. The embryo will develop into a fetus and up until birth. So essentially, this lining is essential to sustain the life of the little embryo. Without this lining, the embryo has nowhere to go and it cannot sustain itself. It has everything it needs. It has everything that it needs to the DNA and things as such, but it needs the nutrients and the oxygen and growth factors and hormones and water and electrolytes and immunological factors. It needs the supply of this for it to further develop and grow. But if there is no conception, then this endometrial lining that has started to prepare and become thickened, it won't have a purpose to serve if there is no conception. And so the body will pick up on this, the hormones will drop, and as a result of that, the endometrial lining will detach from the uterine wall and it will shed. And that is what menstruation is. And the blood that is shed is the blood that was inside of this lining that would what's it called, transfer the nutrients. from the mother to the little embryo. So yeah, that is what we're shedding. We're shedding that which would sustain life, literally, in the very, very beginning of the pregnancy. So it's not just like waste, not at all. It's life-giving material, life-giving nutrients, a life-giving endometrial lining that we're shedding. And if you, for example, use a menstrual cup or a disc, I haven't actually, I use a menstrual cup myself, but I know there's a disc also available. But for example, with the menstrual cup, and I assume also the disc, all of the blood will be, you will see the blood in its, how do you say? Its entirety, let's say. So if you have a tampon, the tampon will mix with the blood, and it's not so easy to actually see what you are shedding. But if you have the menstrual cup, you will see your blood and you will see the lining. So that is a way to, if that is of interest, to actually look at it. And actually, because many of us have this habit of just taking the tampon out in a hurry and then shedding it or wrapping it and just like, let's get rid of it. But the menstrual cup, if you have time, for example, if you're at home, if you're in like, yeah, if you're in the, if you have time, then it is a wonderful opportunity to actually look at the blood and to see what is there, and to actually, I like to remind myself what it is that I'm actually shedding, that it's not just this, that I'm bleeding just to bleed, but it's actually so much more than that. And that can be a challenge to kind of shift that perspective. But I invite you to, if you're not already doing it, and also just for us to find our own ways to connect with our bodies and what we're shedding and nature. Yeah, something else that that some women do, including myself, is to give the menstrual blood back to nature. So, because it's filled with nutrients and it can actually serve as a fertilizer for soil. It contains vitamins and minerals such as iron, potassium, magnesium, and others that I haven't written down. And the soil actually extracts these nutrients, and they serve as a fertilizer. So that is something you can try out if you would like. I know it can sound out there, and it's absolutely nothing you have to do, and everything in this video, as everything really is an invitation. Maybe you're already doing it. Yeah, but the intention is for, I have this wish that us women and people who bleed, that we develop this relationship with our bodies and with our cycle and with our inherent nature. And there are many ways to do that. Also, to track the cycle, which I will get back to, is also a beautiful tool to anchor ourselves into every day as we transition from one phase to another throughout the cycle as the hormones fluctuate. Yeah. So if you would like to give your blood back to nature, a menstrual cup or a disc would be good. You can also use period underwear. But if you use a menstrual cup, for example, or a disc, you will have the blood and then you just dilute it with water. I put it in a glass jar and then I take it with me out in nature. Maybe you have a garden, a specific place in your garden you want to give it to. It's important to dilute it with water because it's too concentrated just in its pure form. But if you dilute it, you pour it into earth. Or I also actually like to give it to the sea, just to see it dissolve and for the water to just wash it away. There's just this cleansing aspect to it that I really enjoy. But again, everything is an invitation. You might already be doing it. It's really up to you. Yeah. If anything, just if you're interested, just for all of us to get curious to what is actually going on with our bodies throughout the cycle and cycles that we are part of. Yeah, what else? I am talkative today. Okay, a last thing that I would like to mention is also to look at our cycle and our menstrual blood as a fifth vital sign. She's actually writing about it in this book, that how important your period is, of what she talked about. And so the idea about the menstruation being the fifth vital sign is that yeah, I can read to you from the book. Has anyone ever told you that your menstrual cycle is a vital sign? Just like your heart rate, body temperature, respiratory rate, and blood pressure, your menstrual cycle is such a central part of who you are that if your body isn't functioning normally, neither will your cycle. Both the American Academy of Pediatrics and the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists report that menstruation should be monitored as a vital sign in adolescent girls. You know how your phone can get glitchy sometimes. Your cycle can also act up when you have an underlying health issue, which could, for example, present as delayed ovulation, mid-cycle spotting, abnormal cervical mucus patterns, irregular periods, or even amenorrhea. That is when your period stops coming completely. Therefore, your menstrual cycle is the fifth vital sign of your health and fertility. So the other ones are heart rate, body temperature, respiratory rate, which is the number of breaths you take each minute, and blood pressure. And so they consider the menstruation or menstrual cycle as a fifth vital sign because your body or your cycle will reflect if something is going on health-wise. Like she said, with, for example, delayed ovulation, amenorrhea, what else? Mid-cycle spotting, irregular periods, cervical mucus patterns. And also you can look when you are bleeding. Use that, we can use, you and we and all can use that as a monthly check-in to see what is going on with our bodies. Our bodies reflect, and the menstrual cycle specifically is very sensitive to what is going on with us. So it's an opportunity we have to check in with how we're actually doing. For example, around the bleeding, do we experience pain? How much pain, if that is the case? And is it every cycle or is it some cycles? How does the blood look? Which color is it? Does it contain any clots? If there are clots, how big are they? How much do we bleed? The quantity. And if there is there any smell? And as we track this, we will, each and every one of us, have an idea of what our menstrual cycle looks like. And that makes it very easy for us to pinpoint if something is abnormal, if something is out of tune with how it normally is. And if anything, if that is not the case, then it's just monthly confirmation and testimony that everything is as is, all is well. And yeah, it's this monthly anchor into how we are doing health-wise. And with health, I mean on all levels: physical, emotional, mental, and spiritually. Yeah. Energetically, how are we doing? I think that was all I wanted to share. It was actually more than I intended, but it felt natural. It felt good to do so. Yeah, I hope this can contribute to for us collectively to start really looking at it from a different lens. And we are already on our way as a collective, as a society, and there is still a way to go. So yeah, I wanted to share that in this video. So I hope you liked it. I hope you got something out of it. If you did, please let me know. Maybe you can share your key takeaway if you have one. And if there are any questions or anything that needs clarification, please ask. And yeah, I will make more videos about this topic. There was a question about if I can go into how the different phases of the cycle affect us on the different levels, and I will do that. It's coming. Looking forward to that. And yeah, also please, if you have any other things you would like me to touch on, then let me know. And yeah, I hope you have a beautiful day and see you in the next video. Bye.